Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Austin's Academy of Sports. Folks, we have finally reached it. Divisional weekend. 8 teams come into the weekend. 4 will go home, and 4 will move on to conference championship weekend next weekend. But before we get to that, we got some divisional games to get to. First, we got the Commanders-Lions, and then we got the Texans-Chiefs. Then we got the Eagles and Rams, and then the Ravens and Bills to round out the weekend. But the weekend doesn't end there. If you're looking for more football, Monday night, the national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame, 2 prestigious universities going at it on Monday night, Martin Luther King Day. But before Monday night, we got the playoffs to get to. Let's dive right into these teams. First, we'll go with the Saturday primetime game. Well, folks, they're all primetime, so make sure to tune in to your couch on Saturday and Sunday, wherever you watch your games from. And just get your popcorn ready because these games will be good. Better than the wild card weekend, I will assure you. Let's get back to that Texans and Chiefs rivalry. Stroud versus Mahomes. One of the best rivalries in sports. Young rivalries, that is. Mahomes and Stroud being in the NFL for only a few years. Stroud coming from Ohio State. Mahomes coming from Texas Tech. And, there could be a lot of urgency in Mahomes' heart right now. He just had a kid, him and Brittany Mahomes, the other day, and he's got 3 of them now. So that could be a lot of urgency to control that pace and get them back to the Super Bowl. They've won like 3 Super Bowls in a row, and they're 1-2. They're going for the three-peat today or this year, and it will be one of the best games of the weekend, if not the best, besides the Bills and the Ravens. Mahomes, he's 5-3 in the playoffs. Or 15-3, I should say. 3-1 in the Super Bowl. It's hard to bet against Mahomes. If you're betting against Mahomes, you're wrong. Because Mahomes has just proved that he's one of the best players. Heck, he might be the best player in today's generation of NFL quarterbacks besides Tom Brady. But that was a few years ago, a few years back. And now Mahomes is kind of back dialing in to this NFL supremacy, as you could say, I guess, and leading the Chiefs to many wins, many playoff wins. Like I said, 15-3 in the playoffs and 3-1 in the Super Bowl. Has only lost 1 game in the Super Bowl, and that was to the Niners. Mahomes, he's bested Stroud in nearly every statistical category this season. And Stroud, he didn't have his 2 top receivers most of the season. Tank Dell getting injured, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and season-ending leg injury. Both of these injuries were season-ending leg injuries for Stephon Diggs, the other receiver for C.J. Stroud, one of his best weapons coming over from Buffalo. And, if Stroud and the Texans were to come away with this win in Arrowhead against the Mahomes, it would have been kind of the Diggs Bowl and the Bills would have beat the Ravens. The Bills and Texans would have squared off in the AFC Championship, and you know where that goes. Actually, 7 years to this date, when I'm producing this, Stephon Diggs for the Vikings had that Minneapolis Miracle, which was another great play and a great story. But now he's not here to be in the playoffs to help Stroud and the Texans defeat the Chiefs. Therefore, I'm giving the win to the Chiefs this Saturday. It's early game. Chiefs had that extra bye week to get healthy, to get ready for this game, and they've prepared really hard. Not to say that the Texans didn't, but, if it wasn't for Justin Herbert's 4 picks against the Texans last weekend, I think the Chargers would have won that game. But he threw 4 picks, and that's the game. X factor for Texans to sneak out of Arrowhead with a win is Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Those 2 studs, edge rushers, have to produce. They have to keep Mahomes in the pocket, and they can't let him scramble around for all these trick plays that NFL loves to post about on their social media accounts. Both had 2 tackles in the wild card, and they have to keep Mahomes in the pocket. That's the end deal. I still see Mahomes and the Chiefs coming away with that win. Moving on to the next game, Saturday night. Commanders-Lions. JD5, Jaden Daniels versus Jared Goff. 2 great quarterbacks that have led their teams very well this season. Jaden Daniels being a phenomenal rookie from LSU. LSU, man, they are a college football to NFL league, portal, basically. They just assert their dominance in the NFL with all these talented wide receivers with Jamar Chase, and then you got Justin Jefferson, and there's many more that I'm forgetting off the top of my head right now. And then quarterbacks, you got Joe Burrow, now Jaden Daniels, great players from LSU, and they have a great product that sends NFL level talent to the league. Now, Jaden Daniels, he is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best rookie quarterbacks behind, I would say in front of Caleb Williams this year. 3,568 yards. What can I say about the guy? He's a great NFL talent player. Now, Goff is better than him. He had 4,000 yards in the regular season, and he's coming off of a bye week. That gives the Lions a little bit of the edge. The same with Mahomes and the Chiefs. I think the Lions get this. I say the Lions get the win here. Daniels, rookie quarterback, coming into Ford Field. And now if you've watched and followed my podcast throughout this season, the Lions and Ford Field has been one of the toughest stadiums to play at. Just because they're a hot team, one of the best in the NFL, 15-2 this season, tied with the best record with the Chiefs. They won the NFC North again, and I think Ford Field will be rocking. They're ready for potentially to send their Detroit Lions to the Super Bowl. And as everyone knows, the road goes through the Motor City. If you want to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC, you got to beat the best of the best, and that's the Lions. Now, I think the X factor for the Lions to win is not Jared Goff, it's Jahmyr Gibbs. He's got 1,500 yards and 16 rushing touchdowns this regular season, if I had to say. That's pretty phenomenal. And he was coming into the season, he was the number 2 back. And now David Montgomery went out against the Bills in that Week 12 game, I believe, or Week 11. And he went out with an MCL. Now he's coming back for the playoffs. So what do you do there? Do you play both of them? David Montgomery is a special player, but so is Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's the X factor for that game, for the Saturday night's game. Going to have to control the time of possession in this game for the Lions. They have one of the best offensive lines in the game. Commanders' defense ranks like 30th in the NFL. Use that to your advantage if you're the Lions and Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. And I think they will. They'll come out of this break, practice hard this week, and they'll be ready to best the Commanders in Ford Field. Third game. First game of the day on Sunday. Rams-Eagles. Rams are coming off an emotional win on Monday Night Football against the Vikings. They handled them very well. Stafford has been balling as of late with Puka Nacua coming back and Cooper Kupp coming back and their running back Kyron Williams. Great team. Not as good as the Lions, but I think they're up there with the Eagles when they're at full throttle. They have two great defensive players in Jared Verse on the defensive end position, and he'll have to be an X factor for the Rams if they want to come into Philly and beat the Eagles. I see the Eagles coming away with that game, though. It'll be closer than you think. Rams and Eagles will be a great game. I still think the Eagles win. Jalen Hurts and Saquon and A.J. Brown are putting up elite numbers, and they showed that in their playoff game against the Packers. They even had A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline. That was funny. It went on to went on to NFL Instagram, and everybody was loving it. And the book, it's one of the top selling books right now. If you look it up, just look up NFL social media, and you'll find that book there. It's increasing in sales numbers, just because one of the talented NFL players, A.J. Brown for the Eagles, was reading it on the sideline. It was a funny thing. Now, Hurts, he's thrown 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions this season. Rams, they'll have to control the ball on the offensive side, and they'll have to get a turnover on the defensive side. Like I said, if they want to sneak in a win and advance to the conference championship, which I would assume, if my predictions are right, will play the Lions. Obviously, the last two NFC teams in Ford Field. Should be a great game. I still think the Eagles get the job done. Top two teams in the NFC play against each other in the conference championship. Last game of the day, Ravens at Bills. Wow, where do I start with this game, guys? Two MVP candidates for this season going up against each other. Potentially a third. Two of them on the Ravens, one on the Bills. Peak television. Sunday Night Football, 6:30 p.m. on CBS. Bills 13-4, Ravens 12-5. Last team to advance to the conference championship the following week. Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson and his squad. Lamar gets the edge, I would say, in the MVP race. I'm just going to skip right to the MVP race. Lamar gets the edge. I would say Lamar has the better numbers against Allen this season. You know, I think he's thrown for over 4,000 yards. He's rushed for nearly 1,000, not maybe even more. I haven't done my stats on that yet. And Derrick Henry, you know, right behind him, running the ball as well. And he's had a lot of touchdowns. But let me get this specific number here for Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's had 1,920 yards, so almost 2,000 yard season. And Lamar's had a 4,172 yard season. Josh Allen, a little less, 3,730. And both these teams are going to come into the game very well, not very well rested because they both played in their wild card games, but they both got the win. Bills, I think the Bills get the job done here. Josh Allen has proved well in the playoffs. He's beaten Lamar in the playoffs, 1-0 against Lamar when they've played their one lonesome game. Now, in the regular season, it was a little different. The Ravens clobbered the Bills at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Earlier on, I think it was like a September game, and they've done a great job of, Bills have coming back in the season and finally reaching it to the divisional round. They have yet to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. So if the Chiefs win and the Bills win, it'll be another matchup, good matchup in the conference championship as well. I think the X factor is actually not even a player. It's got to be the Bills Mafia. Bills Mafia, they love their Bills. That's one of the best teams in the Buffalo, New York area. You got the Knicks, you got the Bills, and some collegiate teams. But the Bills Mafia, they will force Lamar to use the silent count, and I think they'll get in Lamar's head. Lamar is like 5-0 since that one stat came out where his mom cussed him out on live TV at a press conference. And he got up to that press conference. It was a funny press conference. He got up there and he got asked a question and he was like, yeah, my mom just cussed me out about that. So ever since, and it was the Eagles game. So ever since that, they've been 5-0. I think their streak ends this Sunday night. And I think my four winners are the Chiefs, the Lions, the Bills, and the Eagles. So the top two teams for each conference show that they are the top two teams, advance to the conference championship, and play next weekend for a chance to, get that coveted Lombardi trophy. Thank you so much for tuning in. Those are the 4 games, the 8 teams remaining this weekend. And if you still want more football, tune in to the national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame on Monday night. Should be a great game as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Austin Shattuck, and have a good night.